Although it was great to see Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen reprising their most iconic roles, and a few other familiar faces for that matter along the way, it doesn't change the fact that there's a lot of things in Obi-Wan Kenobi that simply do not make sense. Gareth here from What Culture Star Wars, and here are 10 things in Obi-Wan Kenobi that make no sense. Number 10. Somehow the Stormtroopers are less competent than ever. The Stormtroopers' incompetence has been a running joke since Star Wars premiered all those moons ago. Their marksmanship skills are so bad, it would actually be out of character if they hit something. But in Obi-Wan Kenobi, these bucketheads aren't just inept, they're idiots. In Episode 5, hundreds of these soldiers corner half a dozen Path members, and yet fail to shoot anyone unless they are 2 feet away. As silly as that moment is, Episode 4 might have the dumbest Stormtrooper moment ever. After Reva suspects Imperial Officer Tala is a double agent, she has 2 of her white armored footmen take her away. Luckily, Tala grabs one of the Stormtroopers' weapons and blasts them. But how did she get a hold of it? Well, she stunned the Stormtroopers by slapping them. What are these helmets made of? Paper? You wouldn't feel a slap if you were wearing a sports helmet, and yet it was enough to leave these Stormtroopers utterly dazed. Number 9. Why did it take so long to open the Path Gate? Because Episode 4 was somewhat underwhelming for most, many viewers were worried the Obi-Wan Kenobi series wouldn't be able to recover. Thankfully, Episode 5 reset the course by giving viewers everything they were looking for. We finally learned Reva's backstory and saw her develop as a character, and Darth Vader got the chance to truly cut loose. Having said that though, this episode suffers from a couple of gripes many cannot overlook. After Vader's forces track down the Path's hideout, Reva orders the Stormtroopers to use a heavy gun to rip apart the blast door. Obi-Wan tells the Path leader Roken the Imperials should break through within the hour. When the titular character fails to stall Reva, she then uses her lightsaber to slice through said door, deactivating the lock mechanism. Which actually begs the question, why didn't she just use her weapon sooner? Why did she waste all that time when she could have just hacked through the door in a couple of seconds? I mean, it's literally a laser sword. It's not like she's not aware of her lightsaber's cutting capabilities, it just felt a bit weird. Number 8. Darth Vader keeps failing to finish his enemies off. Contrary to what Darth Vader said in Return of the Jedi, he is not exactly known for being forgiving. On many occasions, he has impulsively killed his own men simply because he was unable to control his anger. Even though this behavior makes the Sith look a bit petty at times, it emphasizes that Vader has no qualms about killing anyone. But throughout the Obi-Wan Kenobi series, Vader keeps sparing his enemies, purely for the sake of the plot. After Reva betrays him, he plunges his lightsaber into her abdomen. As she lies helplessly on the ground, finishing her off should be as easy as shooting womp rats in a barrel. Instead, Vader walks away, giving the Inquisitor time to escape and recuperate. If this was a one-off incident, it could be forgiven. But in Episode 6, the fallen Jedi makes the same mistake. After dropping a pile of boulders on Obi-Wan, the former Padawan trots off, assuming the deed is done. But since Obi-Wan is resourceful and, you know, a Jedi Knight, a bunch of rocks obviously isn't going to be enough to kill him off. Considering Vader is obsessed about killing his master for a decade, you'd think he wouldn't accept Obi-Wan was dead unless he was looking at his charred corpse. But that would not have served the plot. Number 7. How did Anakin not sense Reva as a youngling? In Episode 5, Reva reveals to Obi-Wan that she was one of the younglings sentenced to death during the Great Jedi Purge. After the Emperor initiated Order 66, Darth Vader and the clone troopers marched into the Jedi Temple to exterminate every Force wielder they saw. And knowing she couldn't stop Vader, Reva played dead to escape the Sith's wrath. Reva's strategy was so clever, there's no reason why it wouldn't be able to fool an ordinary person. But Vader is far from ordinary, isn't he? Like any Sith, Vader can detect people from great distances. However, a Force wielder's ability to detect another is far easier if the other person is Force sensitive as well. Because Reva was taught in the ways of the Force, she shouldn't have been able to trick Darth Vader, especially since he's one of the most powerful Sith to ever live. How odd. Number 6. Why was Obi-Wan surprised to hear Anakin was still alive? While there could be an argument to be made that Obi-Wan was very much under the impression that his former Padawan and brother Anakin ultimately succumbed to his blistering injuries in the aftermath of the pair's fiery duel on Mustafar in Revenge of the Sith for a time, the fact he only stumbled on the fact he was actually wrong about Skywalker's demise some 10 years on from their fight in Episode 2 of the series felt a little bit odd. For those pointing to the idea of Kenobi possibly not being aware of the Chosen One now going as Darth Vader, in the time since their emotional last encounter Outer, Yoda very much referenced Anakin being consumed by Darth Vader to Kenobi during said Episode 3 prequel. Even with Kenobi's isolation on Tatooine and cutting himself off from the Force, did he not even once hear of a frightened civilian on the desert planet talk about the Emperor's right-hand man wreaking havoc across the galaxy? Sure, the planet is on the Outer Rim, but it just feels odd that he never once heard of the name Vader being uttered aloud and put two and two together during his 10 years of exile and consistently spending time around the planet's occupants and his Tibetan Station workers. Number 5. How did Obi-Wan outrun a tidal wave? In Episode 4, Obi-Wan is shot at by stormtroopers in an underwater corridor, forcing him to deflect their lasers with his lightsaber. To our hero's horror, one laser is redirected towards a glass wall, cracking it open. Using the Force though, Obi-Wan eventually keeps the glass together, giving his companions enough time to escape. And when they reach the other room, Obi-Wan then stops using the Force to join them, causing hundreds of gallons to crash into the corridor. Fortunately though, he manages to reach the next room, allowing Tala to seal the corridor. However, it's damn near impossible to outrun a tidal wave. When water bursts through a compact area like what's depicted in this scene, it can move up to 500 miles per hour. Obi-Wan could have survived if he just used Force speed. Star Wars keep forgetting that Jedis can do that. But instead, he simply jogs away from the rushing current. Number 4. Why did Obi-Wan let himself be scanned in MAPUZO? When Obi-Wan is stopped by stormtroopers on MAPUZO in Episode 3, the soldiers force him to undergo a probe scan to ensure he's not a Jedi. As soon as the machine finishes scanning him, Obi-Wan then blasts the troops and flees with Princess Leia. Although he tries to stay hidden, the probe's data is transferred to the Imperials, informing the Inquisitors of his location. Within a matter of hours, Darth Vader and his minions land on MAPUZO, which results in the locals being murdered and Obi-Wan being incinerated by his former pupil. What a palaver, eh? However, all of this could have been avoided if Obi-Wan shot the stormtroopers before he was scanned by the Imperial probe. Obviously, he's a bit reluctant to draw his weapon since he doesn't want to cause a scene. But since he had to almost inevitably blast the stormtroopers to continue on his journey anyway, why didn't he just shoot them or the probe sooner? Even though this action put him in danger, the fact that he allowed himself to be scanned made it 1,000 times worse, since the Empire then learned exactly where he was residing. Number 3. Why didn't Obi-Wan go around the gate on MAPUZO? As Obi-Wan Kenobi and Leia Organa make their way to a rendezvous point on MAPUZO, they're picked up by a mole-like alien called Freck. As he brings them to a laser gate guarded by stormtroopers, the untrustworthy Freck asks the soldiers to investigate his passengers. This then leads to a shootout since Obi-Wan and Leia aren't able to get around the laser gate. Oh wait, no, yeah, they probably could have. All they had to do is walk around the gate to reach the other side. Even though a toddler could have figured this out, Obi-Wan instead blasts the gate mechanism to continue his mission. This entire situation is so parodical, it's reminiscent of a scene from Robin Hood Men in Tights, where our hero is informed he can just walk around Little John's toll bridge, but he refuses to. What makes this scene even dumber is that this plot hole could have easily been fixed if there was a large structure on both sides of the gate or something like that, preventing anyone from getting around it. Number 2, the show contradicts key moments in A New Hope. No matter how much one loves Han Solo, lightsabers, and the Force, Star Wars has always suffered from one very serious problem. It has to work around the limitations of its own continuity. Because George Lucas's creation has expanded its lore into comics, books, video games, animated series, TV shows, and movie spin-offs, it's virtually impossible for the story to be flawlessly cohesive. The Obi-Wan Kenobi series proves this point since it conflicts with the original trilogy. In A New Hope, Princess Leia leaves a message in R2-D2 referring to Obi-Wan as a man who served my father in the Clone Wars. Based on this odd phrasing, it sounds like the two have never met, but as has been revealed in the Disney Plus series, the two are more than well acquainted. Considering the pair went on a planet-hopping adventure 10 years prior and were chased by Inquisitors for crying out loud, it feels like Leia has no reason to introduce herself, since Obi-Wan knows exactly who she is. Sadly, there is no way to fix this continuity error, meaning die-hard fans will just have to accept this egregious blunder. Number 1, how did no one notice Obi-Wan? The idea of a hero disguising themselves as an Empire employee is an age-old trope in the world of Star Wars, isn't it? So it's not too surprising Obi-Wan Kenobi made a reference to this running joke by including a scene of our hero pretending he's working with the Empire. But the disguise that Obi-Wan wears while escaping Fortress Inquisitorius with Leia is so ludicrous, it feels more suited to Spaceballs than the iconic sci-fi franchise. To get out of the facility, Obi-Wan dons the attire of an Imperial officer, but it fits so badly, it's blatantly obvious it's not his uniform. Also, even though the majority of Imperial officers can't have facial hair, nobody notices Obi-Wan has a damn glorious beard. But the most preposterous moment is how Obi-Wan hides Leia. To make sure nobody sees her, he places her under his coat. This guy is a legendary Jedi Knight, and that is the best strategy that he could come up with. You know what the silliest thing is? Obi-Wan's plan actually bloody works. And that's our list of any other things in Disney Plus's Obi-Wan Kenobi that make no sense. Let us know all about them in the comment section right down below, and do not forget to like, share, and click on that subscribe button while you're at it. Also, if you like this kind of thing, then head on over to whatculture.com and find some more incredible articles just like the one this video you're watching right now is based on. I've been Gareth from What Culture Star Wars. May the Force be with you as always. Thanks for clicking on this video today, and hopefully I'll see your faces very, very soon. Bye-bye!